Well, hello there. It is great to have you. I am Nick Olson. I'm your host of P3, the Pro Production Podcast, and per usual, we're getting started a few minutes late here. Tonight, I can't blame this one on us. We went to start streaming there, and Restream.io was down. So for the first time ever, we're streaming directly to you. So hopefully that'll work well. But again, that's why we always have backups, right? So, well, once again, welcome in. Again, I'm your host, Nick Olson, for P3, the Pro Production Podcast. You're listening to and watching episode number 8, and it's the third part of our ultimate camera stream. Tonight, we are talking about broadcast cameras. We've got a great lineup. We've got the... Oh, hey, guys.
Oh, hey, sorry.
Hey, yeah, you remember when I told you to keep yourself muted? Thanks.
I'll turn myself off.
Thanks, appreciate it. That's the guys in studio number 27C. They are joining us from the studio tonight, but we're super excited. We're doing episode 3 of the Ultimate Camera Streams, or part 3, and tonight we're doing broadcast cameras. We have the Sony FB-80. We have the... Hitachi Hitachi Z-HD5500, and we have the Blackmagic URSA Broadcast. So that's the one you're all going to want to see tonight. We know that, and we're excited to bring those to you. So you heard them a little bit earlier. And by the way, we've got the feng shui going on here. Our research department's not here tonight, so I'm having to do a little bit more than normal. But it's all good. So we reorganized things tonight and made them look a little bit better. But yeah, joining me now from studio number 27C.
I thought it was 23C. 27C is
We've
full.
probably built 4 studios since then.
Yeah, 27C is full, or 27C is in use by someone else. We're in 23C.
Of course, my bad. AJ Fager and Brady Davis, welcome in, guys. How are you?
Good.
Good, Nick. How are you, man?
We're doing great over here. What do we have tonight, guys? What have we been?
I was hoping
here?
you were going to stall a little bit longer. I was going to take a drink of water first.
Oh, okay.
But all right, well,
that's fine.
Now that we're in,
what order are we going in? We might as well start. We might as well go in the order of. Let's go in reverse order of inputs. So we'll start with the URSA Broadcast, right? Is that the one we want to start with, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely it is. And it looks like we are already having issues with the stream because we've never tested this before. So that's fantastic. Really big shout out to Restream.io tonight for helping us out here. Well, welcome into P3. I'm your host, Nick Olson. It's great to have you this evening. Whether you're watching us or listening to us live or on demand, we welcome you into the show, to the Pro Production Podcast. Tonight we're talking about cameras. We're talking about broadcast cameras. It's part 3 of our Ultimate Camera Stream, episode number 8 tonight. And we're really excited to have you here. So tonight, what we have is this. We have 3 broadcast cameras, and we're also going to be looking at them compared to the PTZ cameras we talked about last week as well. But we have the Sony FB-80, the Hitachi Z-HD5500, as well as the Blackmagic URSA Broadcast. So, without further ado, joining us now live from Studio 23C, we have Brady Davis and AJ Fager. Guys, welcome in.
Hello.
Hello, Nick.
We're back.
We're back. We are. We've tried this once tonight, and
Are we on Restream now?
we are not on Restream, and the stream is going fine. We've lowered the quality just a smidge, but the stream is working just fine. Restream decided to give me a lovely notification tonight that says that they are having an issue that is currently causing people to disconnect and others to experience instabilities with connecting at this time. We were working to resolve this as quickly as possible, and that was posted 49 minutes ago. So Restream, if you're listening, which you're probably not because you probably can't, I would appreciate it if you might send us an email instead of just letting us know, considering we pay like $50 a month for this. So
Is that what we pay? Holy cow.
Yeah, maybe not anymore if the stream works out well without it. So
Yeah.
we will see. So guys, how are you? What are we talking about tonight?
I think we're going to dig straight into the...
Cameras.
Yeah, cameras. Still cameras. But I do think we're going to dig straight into the URSA broadcast. So we'll start there. That's definitely a camera that I think a lot of people have had questions about. And we've only got technically 3 cameras to show tonight. So we've got the URSA broadcast, the Sony FB-80, and the Hitachi Z-HD5500. So we've only got 3 cameras to show tonight. We are going to have a couple of reference cameras later on, especially when we do the low light test, just so you can kind of see the 350 that we shot last week, and then also the one of the PTZs that we shot with last week as well, just to kind of see what a camcorder looks like against that. So that test in particular is going to take place on this camera. So we're going to have to rearrange the studio whenever we do that test. It'll take a whole 5 seconds since it's on a very nice Miller tripod. We have to give the shout out to let's see, Miller, Ross Video, and then Panasonic, Sony, Hitachi, and yeah, I think that's Blackmagic, sure.
Yeah, sure.
So anyway,
So you're telling me we're going to jump right into the thing that people want to see. I think that's the first rule of TV, is that you make them wait to the end of the show to do it. But I guess we'll jump right into the Blackmagic.
I would let those people know, stick around after it to see the different and quality of cameras and
yeah, because we're not going to do the low light test
Yeah.
until the very end.
So,
Okay, yeah. So there's
which
the
is really important.
there's the cliffhanger. Thank you. There's the
You will
grab.
not see the full effects of any of these cameras until the very end when we do the low light test.
Sweet.
So
that's what you want to stick around for, folks.
yeah.
All right, talk us through
You
the,
think we should switch to the Hitachi first?
No, let's do the Blackmagic. Give the people what they want. Do the Blackmagic. So
All right.
the
So
broadcast.
Nate, let's get right on in here. So I do want to kind of start from square one. For those of you that may not have caught up on the other streams, we are going to talk about the transport of every single one of these cameras. So every single one of these cameras uses a system called cabling system called SMPTE fiber.
Well,
so
not all of them.
Which ones?
The Sony,
that's
the Sony's on
Opticon.
Nojic, but it's still fiber optic.
That's Opticon. So this is a SMPTE fiber connector. Can you focus on that?
Look at that.
There we go.
Look at that.
Beautiful.
So that is a SMPTE fiber connector. So there's 2 strands of fiber, single mode, and then four power conductors that travel through this. So a single cable solution will handle video, power, return video, tally, intercom. What else we got? there's an Ethernet tunnel on this one, so there's definitely a lot going on, and a lot of data is multiplexed down this single fiber cable. Something that is different about the URSA Broadcast versus these other cameras is that the URSA Broadcast is multiplexed via 10G Ethernet, so that is a difference. So far, we have not seen that cause any noticeable latency or anything like that, but it is a different way of doing things than most broadcast cameras use. Most broadcast cameras are using wave division multiplexing to get all of that data down the SMPTE fiber, whereas this particular camera is multiplexing all of that data down 10G Ethernet using TECO compression. So it is a 4:1 compression ratio. So you are essentially taking a 4K camera, you're compressing it down with a 4:1 ratio, and then you're going to be upscaling it back at the CCU. So that's how this system works in order to get everything, all the 12G down to 10, all the 12G down to 10G pipe. So that is that's the transport of the URSA Broadcast. So as you can see, that's this connector right here, SMPTE fiber coming into this, and then this entire system is actually about 3 or 4 different part numbers. 1, 2, 3, 5 different part numbers. So we've got the SMPTE fiber back right here. The URSA Broadcast. Nick, was that my mic cutting out or my ears?
That was your mics. Just keep going though. We'll be
okay. We've got the URSA Broadcast body right here. This is a Fuji 17 by lens, I think, that we've got on there. HD lens on here. It doesn't have a doubler or anything like that, so it's not going to fill the chart, and it's not going to be great for focal length for what we're doing tonight, but it will give you an example of the picture. Let's see. The viewfinder right here is also a separate SKU, so that's the viewfinder on the URSA Broadcast. We really like the viewfinder. Oh, hold on.
You're good. Just keep working through it. Is it on your right side?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Make sure my antenna cable's not loose. All right, cool. So the URSA Broadcast viewfinder right here. And then let's see, all of the controls here on the back. So let's scoot around here to the back, Nate. This is where you're going to, and we'll probably only go over this on a few of the cameras because for the most part, they're all going to have similar functionality. So we're going to be digging into the picture here in a second. So specifically the I/O on here, there's 2 intercom channels right here, and then additional audio inputs, outputs, sync. There's also return video channels on here, so you can use this to transport and receive multiple video channels down a single fiber back. So, yeah, maybe if you have 2 or 3 cameras at your front of house position, one of them is a PTZ, and you don't want to run separate cabling, you can technically do that down the same fiber back. You can just loop right in. And I think pretty much every single one of these cameras we're showing tonight has additional SDI I/O on it. So that's a typical feature. That's not only proprietary to the URSA Broadcast. That's a standard feature on most of these cameras. So let's see. Brady, am I missing anything on the camera?
Nope, I think that's most of the stuff on the camera itself.
That's our CCU stack right back there. So we have all of our CCUs stacked up back there. We are not using the Television Studio HD switcher. However, it is necessary to control the URSA Broadcast. So,
which is, let me pull it up here. There you go. Nick, if you want to show that, that is on the right here. This is the RCP we're using.
Yes.
To color, which you do, correct me if I'm wrong, AJ, you have to run that through an ATEM switcher, Blackmagic switcher, to get the control. Correct.
The RCP panel has to talk to an ATEM switcher for control, and then you have to have the return video coming out of the ATEM, or sorry, coming out of the ATEM going into the CCU, because the control actually happens down the return video channel. So, I don't remember, honestly. I would have to look. So I know I typically route it out of an aux. So Nate had a question of if it could be out of the program, but I don't remember. It might be able to come out of program, but I would have to double check that. So all right, so let's get framed back up on our chart here. Let's see. All right, you want to put this in our program?
You're in program.
Cool. So this is the URSA Broadcast. Now, forgive the shakiness. It's not on the greatest tripod. This is not on a Miller tripod, just so everyone knows. If it was on a Miller tripod, it would be way more stable. This is on a... I'm not going to lie, it's on an Amazon tripod, so there you go.
But we own this camera, so we can put it on whatever tripod we want.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is the URSA Broadcast. So this is, I would say rather well balanced than we had it last time, and we'll do a side-by-side here a little bit later to show what it looks like side-by-side. So as you can see, we've got quite a bit of focal length on this lens, but there is no tube-eye extender. So it's just standard. We can move over to our framing subjects here, our Han Solo. There we go. Unlock the tripod. So that is Han Solo. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah. So one thing that we've noticed about this camera the entire time, and I'll go back to the camera here. It's a single sensor. Did we talk about the fact that it's a single sensor camera?
Yeah, so let me go through the list because I actually didn't go through any of that.
Let's talk about that first, and then we'll go back to the quality.
Price point of this entire system. Now, this doesn't have a tripod or anything like that. This is just the camera system with lens controls, the viewfinder, the fiber back, the CCU. I think the RCP is on here as well. The body, lens, and lens controls, and a roughly $1,000 SMPTE fiber cable, $1,250, something right around there, about $1,000 cable. This camera price point, all in all, is about $22,500. That's just online pricing. And then the sensor is a 1-inch MOS sensor with a 15 megapixel resolution, and then it is technically a 4K sensor, so it can be cropped as well. And then there's different selectable film modes and everything like that. I believe we are in the Rec 709 film mode, Rec 709 video mode. So. And then we are currently outputting 3G 1080p HD 1080p 3G SDI, and that is coming out of the CCU. Let's see. The pros is that it is a good price point. It is the cheapest price point, with the exception of the 350. It is the cheapest price point that we're going to discuss tonight. I think, and I said this kind of on the first stream, if you're buying a camera strictly for image quality, there might be some other options out there that are going to get you some better low light performance and more superior image quality for a similar price point. However, if you do need this entire transport system, the SMPTE fiber, the intercom, the tally, if you need all of that ecosystem incorporated into your workflow, then that's really where this camera is going to shine. And as long as you have great studio lighting, and as long as you have I guess that's it. Yeah.
And they'll see that in the low light test.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we've talked about this week is one of the things that this camera does so well is it allows us to enter into a studio broadcast camera ecosystem with the fiber back, with the viewfinder and all of the integrated controls at a very, very low price point.
Yep.
And when we say very, very low price point, did we say the price point?
Yeah, it was $22,500.
$22,500, and that is
that include a lens.
That
lens
includes a lens
yep.
with, and that lens is the kit. Is that the 17 by that's on it currently?
The lens, that is not the lens that is on it.
So it does get, if you buy the 17 by from Fuji that's intended and sold from Blackmagic as a kit with this lens, the camera can get less expensive. I think the thing that we've talked about is that, again, if you're going strictly for image quality, switching back to that camera now, the image quality is, while the quality is not bad, one thing that we've noticed is the color is not the best on it. It tends to lean yellow. It tends to lean yellow-green, as you'll see there. And it might be hard to say that this color is yellow without a reference, which might work in people's favor. You know, if you're shooting, right now we're shooting the worst thing for a camera that's not looking great in white, right? Because we're shooting a garage door with a white piece of paper on it. So we're really not giving the camera, I don't know if we can actually switch to the chip chart maybe here, but we're putting it kind of through its worst case scenario, right? But the thing with this camera is, since it is a single chip, you are going to have less balance across the entire spectrum of colors, which is one of the reasons why a 3-chip camera, obviously the FB-80 and the 5500 that we have tonight, are going to outperform this camera color-wise. This is as close to white as we're going to be able to get this camera, and that's just kind of that. So, and the white looks much better on the chip chart, by the way. This is the best light that we've had. This is the best white that we've had on this camera so far. We've spent some time with it. What you'll notice, I think, is the colors aren't going to be super saturated, but the whites are better. So again, being an entry-line studio camera, if you need the form factor of a single cable providing power, signal, and everything to your camera, I think it works really, really well. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah. And like I said, the big thing that I think this camera is going to disappoint a lot of people on is going to be that low light performance. It's definitely, and we'll like I said, we'll show that later on when we do the low light test. It definitely leaves a lot to be desired in that region. So let's see. I don't think I have anything else on this particular camera. Can you think of anything I'm missing?
Nick, any questions coming in this chat?
None yet.
Camera?
I forgot to mention, too, if you guys are watching us right now at facebook.com/Pro Production Podcast, or watching us also on youtube.com/Pro Production Podcast, by the way, thanks for subscribing. 125 of you now. And if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button and get notifications about our future streams. But we don't have any questions yet. But if you guys have questions, make sure you drop them in the chats, and we'll make sure we get to those questions as well. We're talking about broadcast cameras, by the way. Right now, we're on the URSA Broadcast, and then we've got the FB-80 from Sony, as well as the 5500 from Hitachi a little bit later, and then we're going to compare those on low light. So I would say the only thing, AJ, I'm not sure if you mentioned, one of our favorite things about this camera is the viewfinder.
It is.
The viewfinder on this thing is an absolute tank, and of all the cameras that we have here with us tonight, it just might be one of the nicer viewfinders there is. Now, it's not an inexpensive viewfinder, though. The viewfinder is...
Well, inexpensive, relatively speaking. I mean, it's like $3,000 or something.
1,800, it says here.
1,800? Oh, yeah. 1,800.
List 1,800 for that.
We'll see if the research department was correct about that. URSA Broadcast,
well, but
viewfinder.
Still, inexpensive is, I think, a relative term when you're talking about any of these cameras, because I think most of these viewfinders are going to be in that anywhere in that $3,000 to $5,000 range, if I remember correctly. So they're not, they're not cheap viewfinders. Obviously, the Sony has a Sony viewfinder, and the Hitachi has a Plura viewfinder. So, and they all look good. The thing that's nice about the URSA Broadcast is actually going to be the ergonomics of the viewfinder. It's able to be very adjusted, so you can adjust it in many ways to, if you have a very high camera operating position. Let me see. There we go.
Watch AJ break the viewfinder.
I'm going to break the tripod. So,
which will in turn break the viewfinder.
Yeah, exactly. So you can get the viewfinder very low down here and still have it angled down. And in case your camera is very high. I will say that if you get to that point, it's typically better to just mount your viewfinder like we did with the Hitachi. We mounted that with a. Let me tighten this up.
Not sure I'm loving these noises coming from the viewfinder right now.
We mounted that with a Manfrotto Magic Arm, so that's going to be a little bit better of a situation if you're shooting really. If your camera's way up here, which nobody likes, so stop doing that.
So I really want to do we wait till later in the show to give our ultimate review of this camera, or do we want to do it now?
Well, we would have to have Nate jump on the lights, right? Is that what you're saying? Like,
okay.
You want to see the low light?
Let's wait. No, let's wait until later then, before we give our ultimate review of this camera, and our thoughts and opinions on it. So, what's next on our camera list?
Let me tighten this up.
Next on our camera list is a Sony FB-80.
Yeah.
Sony FB-80. That's the camera right to the next to the Blackmagic.
We have too many cameras,
camera
and
4.
Our backdrop is too dark. So brighten that up a smidge, Nate. We'll overexpose it a touch just so everyone can see it clearly. So this is the Sony FB-80. So this one is slightly different. It uses an Opticon system. Similar concept, different cabling. I think the Opticon technically might be slightly cheaper than a SMPTE fiber cable. I would have to double check that. The advantage to an Opticon is that the connector has a internal dust cap system. I'm not going to disconnect this, but it has an internal dust cap that retracts whenever you plug it in, so that is a nice feature. And then also the Opticon connectors can fit into a standard Neutrik D-size panel, so that is also another benefit to the Opticon. However, the only disadvantage to the Opticon is that no one else really uses it. So it's not going to be a standard that you see as often as you see SMPTE fiber. So and I guess they're both technically SMPTE. So LEMO connector SMPTE fiber.
That's right.
So,
yeah.
EDW and FDW.
Yes, they're all SMPTE fiber. Normally we refer to, though, I guess the LEMO is a far more standard cable type with
Correct.
what we see than the Neutrik cable type. Hey, I don't want to go too much farther because we do have a question in chat real quick. I want to, before we dive full into the FB80. Stefan, apologize if I get your name wrong. If I got it right, I don't apologize. Have you been able to get a better color experience with correction or applying LUTs? Being a bit of a noob with the Blackmagic design stuff, but they seem very flat, but receive color correction well and then look great. What's your opinion for being able to get a great final product out of them?
We honestly haven't had the opportunity to apply LUTs to them yet. We are planning on applying LUTs.
Since we own this camera?
Yeah, so while LUTs will definitely help the coloring of the camera to a point, there is still going to be some limitations that you're going to hit with that sensor, especially as it relates to low light. So,
well, and the other thing too is we're currently running it as flat as we can, and
right.
It's leaning yellow green.
Right.
So I think the other important thing about that too is we're running all three of to be able to stack these cameras up side by side with the Blackmagic, Hitachi, and Sony. We really needed to run them all flat, right? Because if we start getting into correcting each camera, then we open up Pandora's box of what is very subjective very quickly.
Well,
on the cameras.
Not quite. We have them currently set to their default Rec 709 profile. That's all of these cameras are set to that. So, in theory, all of them should for the most part match.
That's
now you will see some saturation differences. The primary difference you're going to see in these cameras is going to be saturation. The colors are all relatively close, but some are more saturated than others. We didn't do too much to dig into the saturation. We did a white balance. We checked it on the tech, and then said, "Yep, that's about white." So that was pretty much it. So we did not dig super deep into these cameras on coloring. That's probably something that we'll do in one of the upcoming streams, Nick. Actually, is maybe we'll color a camera from the ground up.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be something good to do on next week, and we can do it on the Hitachi or something like that. But we'll see.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's as flat as you'll ever get that image, right? Just being straight out of the box, white balance. That's the starting point. So again, being the starting point, it doesn't boast super well for it that the colors aren't somewhat flat and even with each other, I guess, because you're always going to have that lean one way, that I guess that tint almost one way or the other.
I would say that it is important to that is something to take into consideration, is going to be applying LUTs to this camera, because I just don't know if you're truly going to be impressed with the color reproduction out of the box. And we've gone through all of the profiles on here, and there wasn't anything that we necessarily loved out of the box. Everything was a little bit flatter than we would have liked, and I definitely think that really to give this camera, its full, to put it through its full paces, I do think that we're probably going to end up having to figure out how to apply some LUTs to this camera. So.
And I had someone in mind that can help us out with that, so maybe we'll do a stream with them. Anyways, FB80.
So switching back from this one back over to the FB80. So the FB80, let's see. We've kind of gone through everything else. The transport on the FB80 is very similar. You're going to have, Opticon fiber. You're going to have some. Is this viewfinder in the way?
No, you're good.
You're going to have some return video channels. You're going to have some input video channels as well that will mux all of that down that Opticon fiber to the, let me put that out of the way. There we go. To the CCU. And then you'll also have the RCP control as well. Let's see. Integrated tally, which we did not connect tonight. And then the viewfinder is right up here. And
Brady, if you hit the call button on the RCP there, it'll
flash the tally. You can see the tally light
should
flash.
be bottom right, I think.
Yep, looking for it.
Bottom right.
There she is.
The
Does
flash
it work?
Do it.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, there,
So
there we go
we
back.
go.
See, there it is. That's
Yep.
that's what it looks like.
That's
when
what
it's in
people are looking
program.
for.
There you go. So integrated tally. So that's definitely a cool, a nice feature, I think, about the CCUs and RCPs and everything like that. We don't have the lens controls hooked up, but this is this in program? Let's go and put this camera in program.
Okay.
So this is the picture on the FB80.
A little
So,
soft there.
huh?
A little soft if you can focus up.
Is it?
A smidge.
There
There
we
you
go.
go.
This is what happens when you don't put lens controls on it. So there you go. You want to open that up a little bit, Brady?
Yep.
Yeah. That is the picture quality on the FB80. And then this is our subject here, Han Solo,
Mr. Solo.
Mr. Solo. Darken that down a touch. So that is our subject there. So this is the Fuji, I think this is the, what lens do we have on here? This is actually, yeah, a Fuji 8.5 to 170 with a 2x extender is the lens that we have on here. So that would be our framing from what did we say last week? That was 35 feet. So what, 190? Yeah, 105 feet.
105.
Yep. So that's 105 feet. Huh? Yeah, that's our 2-foot solo. And then this is our 6-foot solo. So this would be 70 feet. So, and then if we add the doubler in, we're going to lose a couple stops of light when we do this, but we'll go ahead and add it in because we've got it on here. Can you brighten that up a little bit, Brady? So,
And we're at -3 gain on this camera right now.
okay. Whenever we do and we'll back out a smidge.
And when you get into the end of the doubler,
It loses, what, 2 stops, I believe?
Yeah.
no, when you get into the end of that lens,
in the
it's
end,
and that's just going to happen with any lens. I mean, with the doubler, you just start to get to you start to see right a little bit before that it starts darkening up. So
Yeah.
about coming back a little bit more, AJ. I think about there is probably your max usable zoom. So
And that is our 105 foot away Han Solo.
so that person would be 105 feet away.
Yeah. And this is AJ's shaky tripod skills. So
Yeah. So
don't judge the operator.
So AJ, can you tell us about we're seeing something here, and I wanted to see if you can tell us about it. There's a bit of purple that's kind of lining his jacket around his face. Tell us what that is.
Oh, the chromatic aberration?
Yes.
So yeah, there is a little bit of chromatic aberration on this. That's typically it's a combination of things. It's usually a combination of the lens on the sensor, and because I've seen this lens on other cameras and you don't always see it, and then I've seen other lenses on this camera and you don't always see it. So it's kind of a combination of the lens and the sensor. At least that's what I've seen in my experience. And it typically only shows up on high contrast, overexposed scenarios. That's where you're going to see it the most. If you ever look on YouTube for like chromatic aberration tests, the the big thing that a lot of people do is like tree branches, because the tree branches are going to have the sky in the background. You're going to have that high contrast of the sky, and then you're going to have the darkness of the branches, and you'll start to see kind of just that purple fringing on the outside as it relates to that. So that's not necessarily only a function of the camera, because like I said, I've seen this camera without that, and I've also seen other cameras. It's a function kind of the lens and the camera.
And Brady, where are we at? Right now with our gain and our iris?
Our master gain's at -3, and our iris currently is all the way up.
So if you bring the iris, or if you bring the gain up to 0,
and then close that iris,
and then close the iris down,
Yep.
that'll should get away with that. So bring it down more. Yeah. So and the other thing too is, while you can run an iris open, and that fixed it all the way there. While you can run an iris open, it's not necessarily recommended to run your iris open. Obviously, your image gets a bit soft. Irises, the nicer the lens, sure, you can run them open all day long, but some lenses, I would say most lenses, unless it's a crazy, absurdly expensive lens, shouldn't. Things are going to start to get slightly distorted.
I think that's the thing that we have to keep in mind. Is I don't think we're shooting. That while there is that. While the cinematic look is becoming an extremely desirable look, I do think there is that realm of reason that you have to operate within, or else you're just going to have too slim of a field of too slim of a field of focus. You're just going to get outrageous bokeh with between like the nose and the ears. And we can actually if we get a chance to talk more about the Vericam, we'll actually go into that as well, because we had that thing looking very cinematic. So
yes.
So it's definitely a thing.
Do we want to look at the FB80 next to the URSA Broadcast?
Yeah, go ahead and pop them up.
So if we want to let's do the chip chart first, if we can.
Hold on, let me bring up our preset on the switcher here. We've got this preset, I think.
Oh, while they do that, a reminder: if you're on Facebook, facebook.com/Pro Production Podcast, that's the link. Go there and make sure you like the page, and then on YouTube as well, youtube.com/Pro Production Podcast. The next stream is to be determined. I'm going to put out a post later on this week asking you what you want to see on the next Pro Production Podcast. We're going to take your guys' suggestions and kind of get your thoughts on what you want to see on the next episode of P3. We'll be on episode number 9 next. That's pretty cool. 8 episodes into this thing. It feels like we're just starting. Some weeks it feels like it's our first show again. So I think the guys are ready.
That doesn't include the first,
all the first shows.
Sprint week, right?
Yes, Sprint week. Brady and I were talking about that earlier tonight, the week we did 5 straight episodes. So that was a lot of fun. So the guys are ready. We're cutting back to camera 32F, and there's our Studio 32F. Here we go.
Okay, yeah. Let me turn my pack up a little bit. I think I bumped it. All right, so this is the FB-80.
And on the right is the FB-80.
Yep.
On the left is the Blackmagic URSA Broadcast.
Wait, what?
Correct?
He is correct. Yep. On the right is the FB-80. On the left is the
I get
URSA
my left.
Broadcast.
I'm left-right dyslexic still. So.
On the left is the Blackmagic URSA Broadcast. On the right is the Sony FB-80.
Yep.
So, I mean, depth, saturation, there's quite a huge difference here.
Yeah. Now, I will also say there is a huge difference in price. I don't think we even talked about that yet on the FB-80.
Oh, have we not?
I don't think we went over the kit and everything else. So let's see. This system as configured, so this one that's shaking, as configured, is approximately a $50,000 package. So the camera, the camera, viewfinder, everything else comes in at right about $27,000, and then the CCU comes in at $16,000. The RCP comes in at $5,000, and then you have a $1,000 cable. So add all that together, and you're at roughly a $50,000 package. So obviously, this is very much a world of you get what you pay for when it comes to image quality and things like that. So this is the Sony FB-80. And then that'll shake this one. This one is the URSA Broadcast. I'm
really impressed right now with the whites, though, what we've been able to do with the whites on the URSA Broadcast.
Yeah, you can see it's still slightly shifted towards green. The saturation isn't quite isn't quite.
The saturation's definitely not there. But
Yeah.
again, talking about a camera that's half the price, it still is a good starting spot to start from. And we'll play around and on a future episode, give it some LUTs and see what we can get out of it too. But yeah, obviously a huge difference out of the box in the saturation of the cameras.
Let me go through the pros and cons list on this camera because I didn't really get a chance to do that.
Yeah,
so
Sony FB-80, pros and cons.
Let's see. I guess it was just pros. I think that's all we did. So we did, it's got a signal to noise ratio of -60 dB, B4 lens mount built in, as do all these cameras. It is 3 2/3 inch sensors. So this is a 3 2/3 inch sensor system. So that's why the color saturation is always going to look better on anything that has 3 sensors. It's gonna have slightly better color saturation. Let's see. It does have digital extenders, and then it can be upscaled to 4K. So the 4K upscale happens in the CCU, and you can also, this particular configuration is LEMO. The other configuration, this particular configuration is Opticon. The other configuration that's available is LEMO. So this is available in both formats. Let's see. I can't think of anything else. So single cable solution, audio, video, intercom, tally, prompter, control, all that stuff. So everything can obviously transport down the Opticon cable here. That is something to keep in mind is I do think, if I remember correctly, I think there is an option to power this camera locally as well. So that might be another way to get into the price point of one of these cameras if you don't quite need that SMPTE fiber workflow. You can power locally and then run independent cables, I guess.
Yeah.
How old school of you?
This camera we've yeah. Oh, how dare you run? How dare you run local power to that camera? This camera we've talked about before, you can actually really get down to a more affordable package.
Yeah.
With kit lens, I don't want to speak incorrectly. Do you remember what, Brady, you might remember better?
It's 27,000.
27,000?
Yeah, it's 27,000.
With the Sony?
Yes, the FB80.
Yeah, just for this, just for the body with kit lens, with viewfinder, everything else. So
not including CCU,
CCU and RCP.
Yeah, it was around the 30 mark.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
So you can get it there. Can we use Scarhoy? Can we use Scarhoy RCPs on that?
I don't remember. Okay. I would have to double check. That might be a
Scarhoy spelled SKAAR
HOJ.
HOJ Scarhoy. Check them out. They make a lot of cool third-party accessories for a lot
everything.
Of broadcast companies. Really cool. Yeah, so
and they're in Denmark. And if you ever deal with the Denmark phone system, it seemed very messy. However, everyone there who answered the phone that was not Scarhoy was extremely polite. So I don't know if Denmark is just full of polite people. Like literally, they were like trying to look it up in the phone book and everything. So very polite people. So yeah, I guess, and that goes for everyone in Denmark. Every single person in Denmark is polite. So anyway,
speaking of other countries, Arnie said he's watching from the Philippines. Arnie, thank you for watching. It's great to have you here.
There you go.
So yeah, that camera, once again, let's take one last look at it.
It does have also built-in ND filters. So yeah, go ahead and go back to it.
There we go.
Yeah.
Looks really nice. Great saturation. So that is the Sony FB-80.
Yep. So the other one, we're going to have to rearrange a little bit because we didn't have the best studio setup for this. Let me.
I wanted to see. Down. I don't know if this would be possible later, maybe towards the end of the show. Well, nah. I was gonna say, can we take the 55 off and put the put one of the?
That's a lot of work.
I know it's a lot of work.
Let's not.
Well, while they change over the studio and mute their own microphones.
All right, we're ready.
Oh, we're ready already. Okay, well, never mind. We're going to talk about the Hitachi Z-HD It's the Z-HD, right?
Yeah.
Hitachi
Nate, you want to roll around here?
Z-HD5500. That's what we're talking about.
I do think we've talked about this camera quite a few times now. So this one is again, it's on a SMPTE fiber system. We happen to have this one on the Fuji Digipower 55. So this is a 55 by lens with a very wide focal length with also a 2 by. And again, kind of the same thing. We've got SDI return videos. I think we have an additional send on this one as well.
Yep, it's up on the front right of the camera. I think you have 2 additional sends.
Okay, yeah. So, then actually, I think they're switchable. So also intercom, tally, all of that is also integrated into this camera as well. So you can't see it, but we do. Well, this is what I was talking about with the viewfinder. So since we have this one mounted so high, we actually have this viewfinder mounted to the Miller Skyline tripod system arm here using a Manfrotto Magic arm. So you can see right there, we've got it a little bit lower. That way you're not, creaking your neck to look up at the viewfinder. If you do not have your viewfinder set up in an ergonomic way, you should stop and
what are you even doing?
Fix that.
Unreal.
Stop and fix that, because you just get way up here, and I'm holding my paper. You just get way up here, and you're looking way up, and that's just not fun for anybody.
Or you can just become an audio guy and not have to worry about it.
Exactly. Did anyone mention that we're all technically audio guys before we're video guys? Anyway, whatever. So let's see. Digipower 55. Z-HD5500, another 3 MOS system, and
this one, it's important to note, this has a new from Hitachi's CCU on it. So this is the Hitachi 550. It is a 1080p CCU. It also, I think, can upscale. Here we've got an image of that there. It can also upscale to be 4K upscaled.
Look how good that light looks on the carbonite.
That's the middle. It looks great. That's the. That's the middle guy right there, the Hitachi 550. And interesting to know is one of the things with this CCU is you actually, AJ, you lose I believe you lose a send to the camera. So that's one of the things they did to get 1080p in that unit is you lose one of the sends to the camera. So,
yeah, which makes sense because you're going from 1.5G to 3G. So
yep, but it is that is a 1080p CCU native. So.
But you still have that one send, which would work for a prompter or something else.
I mean, for a lot of people, they don't need more than one. Actually, I take it back. It's a return you don't get. Yeah, you lose a return. They've dropped a return and it still has 2 sends. Okay. Because now the conversation I'm remembering, it also, this is funny, the send is no longer composite. The sends are normally composite. One of the 2 sends can be composite on the CCU, and you're probably thinking to yourself, why on earth would one of the 2 sends be composite?
Because prompters, many prompters are still composite video.
That's exactly right. Prompters have been composite video, so both of those sends are SDI. For a lot of people that doesn't matter, but if you're living in a broadcast environment where you're using maybe legacy prompters or even very expensive prompters that don't need to be SDI, HD SDI, because it's a prompter, then that is now an SDI output on the camera from the 550 CCU. So let's AJ, tell us about this camera. There's no cons to it, but as it's configured at least. But
I mean, I don't think there's really any cons between the Sony or the Hitachi that we can at least think of off the top of our head. They're both great cameras.
It's not a true 4K
I guess that
sensor.
okay. So that is a
if
con.
you are looking to push 4K, that would be the only con I can think of. Is it's not a true 4K sensor. You can upscale to 4K in the CCU, typically with a license, but the sensor is not a 4K sensor.
That is a con. So it's a 2/3 inch HD sensor, and then it's going to be upscaled. So we talked about that on one of the previous streams. How you get to a certain size of sensor, that's about 2/3 inch right there. So just so everyone sees that size, and then that's about 1 inch right there. So anyway, the 2/3 inch sensor, you're going to have a very hard time, especially when you have a 3 MOS system like this. You're going to have a very hard time with pixel density getting 4K worth of pixels onto a 2/3 inch sensor. Most of the systems, I think pretty much all and I could be speaking out of place, but I think pretty much all the big sports cameras that I've seen and everything else are still 2/3 inch, and they're upscaled at the CCU.
That is correct.
And then then most of the cameras, how they're getting around that is like the Vericam. There's particularly with the Vericam, and then with this camera as well, there is an optical enlarger that actually takes that 2/3 inch sensor size and then enlarges that image so that it covers the entire 1-inch sensor. So if you've ever had the pleasure of mounting a B4 lens on a camera that was not designed for it, you just kind of see a circle of the lens right in the middle. So what that's doing is that enlarger is taking that circle and essentially just taking that and enlarging it. So obviously the enlarger for the URSA Broadcast is built in, so you don't have to worry about that. But the Vericam, which we won't talk about tonight, the enlarger for that is an IBE optics, which is like 4500, I think.
Also new AGI, I think for some of the new broadcast cameras that are looking to be 4K native out there is, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 4 2/3 inch 1080 sensors stitched together to make a 4K make a 4K image.
You could be right. I actually haven't. I haven't done a lot of digging on that yet.
I'm not sure there's any actually out there, but that's the rumblings I hear coming is 4 2/3 inch sensors stitched together to make.
It's going to be very interesting to see how they get to 4K in the coming future. In the future, because there's that point of diminishing returns. Obviously, you can see that this lens right here, which is a 2/3 inch lens, is a rather large lens for a 55 by. So imagine this same lens not built for a 2/3 inch, but built for a 1-inch sensor. It's going to be exponentially larger to make that work. So it's definitely something where the 2/3 inch form factor lends itself to some tremendous focal lengths, and we'll show that here in a second whenever we switch to this camera. Let's go ahead and put this camera in program. Then let's open us up a little bit more on the iris.
Here we go. This is the Hitachi.
Too much. Yeah.
Hitachi Z-HD5500 with the Digipower 55 high definition.
And we are currently at -3 gain, right?
We are at -3 gain.
Can you focus up there too, AJ?
Oh.
It just, again, every time I take your shot, you're out of focus. It's terrible.
How's that?
Yeah, that's in focus.
So let's see. So this is the 55 by lens. So we'll zoom all the way out. And we'll zoom all the way in.
Our back focus is very clearly not been set on that camera.
So the back focus was set. So that is something to keep in mind when you're using doublers or when you're using enlargers. The back focus on this was set for the URSA Broadcast. So something to keep in mind. And what Nick is talking about when he's talking about back focus, normally when you zoom all the way in and you focus like this, and then you zoom all the way out, it's going to stay in focus. This particular camera, like I said, this particular lens, we didn't get a chance to reset the back focus.
Maybe
focus there.
Maybe we'll do. Maybe we'll at the end of the episode, if we have enough time, we'll do an episode with AJ on how to back focus your cameras.
Maybe we just do that next week, like setting up your camera, and we'll just do it with the 55.
Yeah, we're gonna let the people talk too this week. The people are gonna tell us what they want to see at a next week's shows.
So this is Han Solo This is our 105 foot away Han Solo.
We iris down a smidge there. Thank you, sir.
This is our 105 foot away 105 foot away Han Solo. So you can see we can get very close to him.
And you're a terrible camera operator.
There we go.
And that is with or without the doubler in?
So that is without the doubler. So here is with the doubler.
Look at that nose.
Focus up on him again. And how far so this is 105 feet away.
Yeah.
And this is
if Han Solo had a booger, you could pick it right now.
Yeah, this is the smallest. Box lens that they make, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So they go up from the 55 by to what?
Larger. I don't know.
So larger. I'll have the research department look here. So, but that is it's a pretty impressive thing right there. So you want to show again with the doubler in, and then take the doubler out and show the.
So this is with the doubler in.
Yep.
And then
doubler out,
is with the doubler out,
and then back all the way out.
All the way out.
So again, a very very wide range of zoom there.
Yeah. It's a very long focal length lens, and that's the issue you're going to run into when you start when you start trying to use larger sensors. It's very hard. It's very hard to find lenses with as well. I think it's technically impossible. It's impossible to find lenses with as long of a focal length as a 2/3 inch lens. So the way around that is to use like an IB optics or something like that and enlarge that image and use a 2/3 inch lens. So yeah. So that is the Hitachi Z-HD5500.
Hey, real quick, AJ, move us through, or talk us. I want to talk through real quick too. We were going through this last week as we were taking a look at some of these lenses, and this is a high definition lens. So there are, in fact, we have one here, and we've put it on our cameras before. We've put it on the Blackmagic camera, but we have non-high definition lens, and then we have high definition lenses, and now we have 4K lenses. And if you're like me, in my thought process initially with that, it was what makes a lens high definition and not, considering it's just glass, right? Can you talk us through?
It's going to be the coatings. It's going to be the coatings and the coatings on the glass, and then I would probably say that the overall sharpness of the lens will come into play as well. But definitely the coatings are far superior these days than they used to be. So that's going to be some of the biggest differences. You're going to see much better coatings on the glass that are going to help things like chromatic aberration. They're also going to help I think overall light filtering. Making it's gonna help. It is gonna help your dynamic range to have a newer lens. It's gonna have just far more dynamic range and everything like that. So yeah.
When we say coatings too, we mean like it's like a projection screen almost. Projection screens, there are some that are rated for 4K, some are rated for HD, some are rated. It's about the some stuff at
just the way they process the glass.
Yeah, some stuff at high definition falls between the cracks, but it's not noticeable within the glass. And obviously, as you increase your resolution and quality to 4K, those things could become noticeable, I guess. Is that kind of somewhat accurate there, AJ?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, so I mean, you can absolutely use a standard definition lens, and I think that was a thing for a long time when Blackmagic, but pre the URSA Broadcast, a lot of people were trying to get the great focal length on some of their other cameras, so they would use more cost-effective enlargers, like I think PhotoDiox makes one, and then buy standard definition lenses, B4 lenses on eBay because they can be had for very cheap. I can tell you that just for kicks, I did experiment with that, and I can tell you that it kind of reached a point of diminishing returns when comparing to just buying a camcorder. I think that there's just such a desirable workflow out of like a broadcast system, the controls, everything about it. But I truly think that you just get to that point of diminishing returns where you're better off to just buy a camcorder. But that's my opinion. I've went down the rabbit hole of trying to do a more value engineered broadcast camera solution. And every single time it's fallen short compared to a more cost-effective camcorder. So
yeah.
So I would say the rabbit hole isn't really worth it.
Well, and the camera we're using right now, are we going to show that off next? The 350.
Yeah, we'll show them. We'll show them whenever we do the side by side. I think in the low light test.
Okay. So are we able now to look at the FB80, the 5500, and the Blackmagic URSA all together? Is that something we're able to do?
We'll just have to take the multi-view to do that.
Okay.
So we'll be in this picture as well. So
and
there you
AJ,
go.
price point on the 5500. You didn't chat about that.
Let's go.
Oh yeah, no one wants to hear about that.
Let's see. URSA Broadcast. Here we go. Hitachi Z-HD5500. This is a 3MOS system, 2/3 inch sensor, 2/3 inch sensor. The camera CCU RCP viewfinder is approximately $35,000. So that's kind of the base Z-HD 5500. So this of the three cameras that we're looking at tonight, the 5500 kind of falls right in the middle. It is a little bit more than the URSA Broadcast, and then you can obviously built up as we have it shown tonight. It is technically a $149,000 system. So you have the
Street price.
Yeah, street price. So you have the camera, and then you have the Fuji XA55, and then that's essentially $91,000 lens. You have the Miller Skyline 90, which is a $22,000 system, and then you have the $1,000 SMPTE fiber cable. So roughly $149,000.
Again, what we noticed as we did all of this is that $1,000 SMPTE fiber cable becomes a lot cheaper by the time you at first it's like that's a really expensive cable, and then they become less and less when you start throwing more expensive cameras on them. So we want to take a look. Let's take a look at all four of these, or all three of these cameras together, plus
zoom out a little bit on
Panasonic. So Blackmagic URSA bottom left, Hitachi 5500 top left, and then the FB80 top right. And the first thing you're going to notice is that the FB80 and the Hitachi look very similar. The 80 is
has slightly more saturation.
Yeah, and you see that even in the whites. So they probably look identical if you were to maybe try to match the saturations on them, because the colors look very evenly saturated. There's not, the purples or yellows.
You could switch back and forth between these two cameras without getting whiplash,
Yes, absolutely. The colors are the same. It's just there's more saturation on the FB80 than there is the 5500, which is neither good or bad. It's just there's just more saturation there. Someone might want less saturation in certain applications, and someone might want more saturations in certain applications. So
yeah, I definitely think that's something to keep in mind is, and again, we have not applied any LUTs to the URSA broadcast. It is something we're going to experiment with. So something to keep in mind is that both the 5500 and the FB80 were out of the box, Rec 709, white balanced, ready to go. And that is something you should expect from a broadcast camera. You should not expect to have to spend a lot of time matching true broadcast cameras. They are going to be, better matched out of the box.
We've been asked, by the way, if these cameras come with S-Video on them.
Alex, they do not come.
That one's not Alex. That's Ryan. But yes, they all come with S-Video for sure.
I assumed it was Alex.
There's a decimator for that. So yeah. So saturation's the biggest thing. Again, I'm really happy with the way the whites turned out on the URSA. Obviously, though, if we increase the saturation, then there might be some shift that happens there. But overall, the 5500 and the FB80, very similarly priced cameras, look very similar. The big differences between them right now are going to be obviously the lenses and how they're capable of the 5500 is going to be able to zoom much farther with the 55 by the Digi 55 than the FB80 currently running the other Fuji lens. And that's just nothing against either of those lenses. It's just that one of those lenses is, $91,000, and then the smaller lens is not $91,000. It's $27,000. So, that's just the reality of the two lenses. So yeah, no, both cameras look great. And again, the URSA is just much less saturated. And we're comparing a single sensor to both the FB80 and the 5500 R3 sensor systems.
I think that something we also didn't talk about is we are running the URSA broadcast at full wide open with 0 dB of gain.
Yes.
We are running the FB80 and the 5500 at negative 3 dB gain, when the irises are not all the way open. So that's definitely something to keep in mind, especially whenever we switch over to the low light test. Yep. Is we're gonna see we're gonna see that, and we'll have to gain those back up to 0.
Yep.
And then
that's a great segue.
That. So
that's a great segue. So let's get set up. The guys in Studio 23C are going to get set up. They're going to move over. Obviously, we're not going to do it in the same studio. They're going to move over to 25B, and they're going to get set up for the low light test. While they're getting set up for the low light test, again, later on this week, it's going to be posted on our Facebook page. We are going to be throwing out some thoughts for future streams. Would love your input on that. For future streams as well. I think this kind of wraps up the main portion of the Ultimate Camera stream with parts 1, 2, and 3. The first week, if you missed it, you can check it out on demand at Facebook or on YouTube. The first week we talked about all types of different cameras. We talked about the Pocket Cinema camera, which is what I'm using tonight for my camera. Talked about a Canon 6D DSLR. We had the Blackmagic URSA Broadcast there, the 5500 PTZ camera. We had the full spectrum of cameras that you would use. Oh, the Vericam, Panasonic Vericam, the full spectrum of cameras you would use. So if you missed that episode, make sure you go back and check that out. That is going to be episode 1 or part 1, episode number 6 of the Ultimate Camera stream. So check that out on YouTube or Facebook. The other thing too, guys, is make sure that you subscribe and like us on Facebook. Subscribe to us on YouTube to get notifications of what we're doing and when we're going to be doing it. So make sure you do that as well. And again, we'll be posting later on this week about future episodes. And make sure too, if you have questions still, you like or you comment tonight and ask those questions in chat. We're still taking them. We still have a bit of time left in the stream for you to get your questions in. So I'm looking out at I'm looking at the multi-viewer here. I'm looking at AJ, who they just took the Hyper Shuttle over to the other studio. And guys, are we ready? Are we ready for the low light test?
I think so.
Yeah. What do you want to look at first, Nick?
So
AJ,
go and put the multi-view up, because we've got the 350 up and I'm in the multi-view right now, so that'll work well enough. And Brady, let's just frame up the rest of the cameras on me as well.
Yep.
Nate, if you want to help with that.
Real quick.
We did grab the light
meter. Have we done anything? Hold on, move the URSA Broadcast back.
I have not touched a single thing on the cameras.
So what this says to me too is that the dynamic range of the 5500 and the FB80, AJ, what we're seeing right now is the URSA Broadcast. I can see an image on, and I really can't see anything on the FB80 or the 5500.
They're not pointed at me either. So they're still
all
pointed
the chip
at the chart.
chart.
No, everything's on the chip chart right now.
Yeah,
we do have
we
a
can
little bit
still
of image
see
on the Blackmagic.
On the Blackmagic. So again, this shows that we're looking at a pretty significant dynamic range change too.
Yeah.
Between all of those cameras.
So we need to gain back up to 0 on the CCUs and then, or on the RCPs, and then open those irises back up on the other cameras as well. So.
And you want to start in the chip chart? You said, AJ, or
no, just start on me. We don't care about the chip chart.
Okay, so bottom right is our camera we're using in here right now. I think Nate did some work on it. That's the 350. Bottom left, Blackmagic URSA, and then I think we're moving the other the 5500 as well as the FB80 over to AJ right now. So give us a moment while we do that. AJ, you're looking great, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
You've been one of the lucky ones and had the quarantine weight loss, right?
Yeah.
instead of me,
almost 15 pounds
instead of me. So we've just gone opposite, about 15 pounds either way. So while they work on that, here we'll switch over and show you Brady working with the RCPs there. Remember, these are RCPs, and the CCUs are the boxes that actually power the cameras. In the case of the Blackmagic, there is a CCU. It looks a little bit different. The 5 or 6 out the front, which is a massive pet peeve of mine. But we really do love the RCP from Blackmagic. It's a 4-camera controller, which obviously saves money in the long run. So,
Brady, do you have the gain back up to 0?
I do.
Cool.
Gain back up to 0.
So Nick, everything gains at 0 on everything right now. Iris is all the way open on all 4 cameras.
On the FB80 it is too. We have control over the FB80's iris. Maybe swing it all the way closed and then all the way up and again. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And the relative button is off. It says 1 point whatever.
It's at 1.8.
Cool. Okay. So this we have the light meter this week. So we tracked that down. This is approximately 6 foot candles worth of light. So we actually found out, just for reference, last week the percent values we were throwing out actually were very close to relative foot candle values. So there you go. So this is approximately 6 foot candles worth of light that we are looking at right now on me. So this is not a lot of light. This is not an optimal shooting environment. We do not have any gain added to any of the cameras. So this is what I was talking about when we were talking about low light performance. The thing to keep in mind is that the URSA Broadcast is that $22,000 package, and you're gonna need good lighting. The 350 is the Panasonic 350 is the $3,800 package. And then the Hitachi probably has a small leg up because it's obviously on a big box lens. Big box lenses are designed to let a lot of light in. So that's I would say if we put the FB80 on that same lens, we would probably see some similar performance as it relates to the as it relates to the two cameras. So this isn't the best side-by-side test because not everything is on the exact same lens. But the 17 by in particular that's on the URSA Broadcast is a brighter lens, is I guess you can a faster lens than the one that is currently on the 55 than the one that is currently on the FB80. So let's see. What do you got? Huh? A little bit. Yeah. Yeah. Are you adding gain to the FB80?
Yeah, there we go. Brought gain up a little bit right there. That's at 6.
6
gain.
dB?
Yep, 6 dB. Iris is still open.
How's the noise level look on the multi-view?
Noise level's not too crazy.
Yeah. And again, this is at...
I can actually bring it up a little bit, and I'm not angry at it. This is at 9 dB.
Yeah, so this is not... again, this is not something... Oh, did we have the doubler in?
Yeah, we did.
Holy cow. I forgot to turn off the doubler.
And that is still at 0 dB of gain.
With the iris
with
full
the
open.
iris.
Yeah.
Now, take in mind the DigiPower 55 is letting in a ton of light.
Yeah,
so
yeah. We need Hitachi to send us one more camera, and that way we can do a side by side with this lens and without. So
right now the Hitachi is at -3.
oh, okay. It's still -3.
Yeah, and you still look. And iris is not all the way up. Yes, it is. Iris
It is all the way open.
on the
Okay. And
Hitachi
again,
now.
this is roughly 5 foot candles worth of lighting. So this is a terrible idea. Just in case anyone wanted to know, this is not.
Please never shoot unless you're going for some sort of look.
This is
Don't
essentially
shoot your broadcast at 5 foot candles.
This is essentially what we're looking at right here. Is I would be like I sleep in a room that's about this bright.
My room is darker
Yeah,
than this for sure.
Yeah.
I think you have
No,
issues.
that is no brighter than a nightlight.
Nate,
No,
let's
that's
go.
about
Let's go to 50% on this, and
is-
then Brady will plan on either try to keep the iris as open as we can. So let's either gain down
Yep.
or
Let's get it up to where Brady take the FB80 down to 0 gain.
keep going. Keep going up. 50. That's 50.
So the FB80 is 0 gain now. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Everything's all the way open right now. Sony's at 0 gain. Hitachi's at -3.
Man.
That's just way too much light.
So,
I
you
will
wanna hop
iris
back
down
on
on
that?
the Hitachi.
Yep, iris down on the Hitachi.
Keep going down on it. Yeah, that's good right there. So it's amazing what we see here with like the Blackmagic is just the color has completely shifted as we've changed lighting.
In my opinion, there's not really color.
Yeah,
there.
it's just there's no saturation.
We should check that. We should check that. It seems like it's still in a log mode for some reason, which I know I pushed that Rec 709 button, but it doesn't seem like it took. So I don't know. We'll have to dig into that. So anyway, either way, the light performance, like we said, even if we can get better color out of the camera, the light performance is not obviously not going to change with the LUT. So that is obviously something to keep in mind, is that if you are considering that camera, make sure you spend money on lighting. We are currently at 50 foot candles, by the way. So like I said, we're pretty close to foot candles in percent the way we have this set up. So last week we didn't have the light meter out, which was a big no-no. So anyway, we were at, when I was yelling out last week that we were at 50%, which didn't mean anything. It's actually relative to about 50 foot candles with the way we have everything set up. So this is 50 foot candles worth of light. And I would say, you used to want to aim for about 100 foot candles on your stage of an even wash with modern technology, better cameras, everything like that. I would definitely say you can get a little much lower. I would say 50 is a good starting point. You know, you probably wouldn't want to go much lower than 50 foot candles for your general stage wash in a live production environment.
I do want to point out we have one light right now, which is on AJ's right side, our left. So we only have one
Right
one
here.
light. So it's not a super even wash across his face, which is why you're getting a very bright AJ on the right and kind of look like Two-Face.
Called dynamic range. It's
Yeah.
a dramatic look.
Dramatic look.
Yeah.
Or you're a Batman villain. Who knows?
So we're sitting at 50-foot candles right now. You said, AJ?
50-foot candles.
Okay, so to give people
Right here on my face, 50-foot candles.
To give people an idea too, the international IES. What are they? Something. The IES. What they have said, if I can, because I've had this chart downloaded before. 50-foot candles is, that's like an office space. Is 50-foot candles is what you're on right now.
A well-lit office space.
Yeah, a well-lit office space.
Yeah. And if I'm looking right at the light, I do have a slight tendency to squint. But for the most part, if I'm not looking at the light, I can keep my eyes wide open. I don't feel like I have to squint. I don't feel like my face is stressing in any way. So I would definitely say 50-foot candles is a good starting point. Is a good starting point to plan for, and that's if you have good cameras. Obviously, if the more light, the better. So yeah.
Nick, one thing we didn't talk about, we talked about a little bit, is this lower right image for everybody, is what we've been shooting on for the last 3 weeks, the Panasonic 350 camcorder. And in my opinion, looks pretty darn good.
It looks really good.
A $3,800
for a $3,800 camera.
It doesn't have the depth that
not even
the
close.
FB80 and the 5500 have. Again, the URSA it's flattened out quite a bit, but again, there's a massive price difference between those cameras.
Yep.
So
yeah, and this is kind of what I was talking about, where if you can't afford any of the cameras that we've talked about tonight, and you're after just straight image quality, there are so many good camcorders out there. Obviously, this is the Panasonic 350. There's also some great camcorders from Sony and Canon. You can get good results, I would say, out of most camcorders. I know the Canon, the 180 is the cheapest with SDI. What is that, 2,500?
Yeah.
Nate, do you remember the price on that one? Yeah, I want to say it's 2,500 to $3,000,
yeah.
And then jumping up to the 3,800, jumping up to the 350, you're in that $3,800 price range. So some of the benefits of the 3,800 is you can interface, of the 350 is you can interface it with an RCP, that is I think one of the biggest benefits is you can do RCP control.
Yeah.
yeah.
With SDI. Yeah. Oh, 1800 with SDI. So yeah.
That's the Sony?
No, Canon.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So that one does have SDI on it, and that's the big thing you want to look for. You really don't want to stress about a bunch of throwdown converters, decimators, MDLX, MDHX, stuff like that. Well, it's a great product. It's not a product I want on every single camera. So plan on a camera with SDI, and then
and of course you can't interchange a lens.
Right.
But some of them you can now interface RCPs, which is really, really helpful. The 350 you can. I know some of the Canons that they can do it as well. But just make sure you know what you're walking into. But I think the camcorders are a phenomenal option right now.
So yeah, let's see. I can't think.
Is that pretty much it for the low light test?
I can't think of anything else. So
Sweet.
Yeah, I would say so.
Well, let's transition back here to the. We don't need to turn the lights back on in the shop. Let's just transition back to our positions here, and while we do that, again, talk about what's upcoming on the show on P3. It's up to you. We're going to be reaching out this week to the Facebook page. Make sure you've liked us there on facebook.com/Pro Production Podcast, and we are going to be looking at future shows. So I think we're going to take a break after this week. We've done 3 weeks in a row here. We're going to take a break, and then we'll come back with another series on audio, video, lighting, broadcasts, whatever it may be. So we'll do that in a few weeks as well. So again, facebook.com/Pro Production Podcast, as well as youtube.com/Pro Production Podcast. So and people have been reaching out to us by direct message too on the Facebook page and the YouTube page. That's been awesome with your questions. So keep those coming in, and we can definitely get to your questions. So We've got about the video on demand is going to be short because of the issues we had starting the stream with Restream tonight. But
we only have 3 cameras to tackle.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
do you know what we didn't do in the low light test? We didn't do the 150 PTZ that we have set up. We could take the last 5 minutes and show that really quick.
Sure, if you want to. We don't need to take the last 5 minutes and show it, but if you want to just pop it up real quick.
Yeah,
I'll pop it up.
we'll switch it over. Let's swap the URSA broadcast. I'll just do that really quick.
Oh, it's
That's
already in the switcher.
inputs. 1, 2, 3.
I'm
Cool.
already-
So they're as they mute their own microphones, then they're going to leave it up to me for a while. So again, thank you all so much for sticking with us for the last 3 weeks, and we're going to continue to try to make this podcast, live show, whatever it is, better every single week. We've got some things planned for the future. We've been a bit busy with doing our normal week-to-week stuff, but no, we're hopefully going to be making this better in the upcoming weeks and bringing you some more great content about production. So again, if you have ideas, definitely make sure you submit those as well. So the guys right now are getting us switched over to the Panasonic 150, and I see it there. So I think we're good to go. And we're going to just finish up and do one more low light test. We've replaced the Blackmagic URSA with the Panasonic 150. It is the 4K PTZ camera that we talked about last week in the PTZ stream. If you missed that, go back and watch it. It's this guy right here, actually, that they're showing it off. Thanks to Nate for showing that camera off there. But now we're going to go to the quad view, and we are going to take a look at that camera compared to the FB80.
Oh, we're going to quad view?
Yeah, we're on the quad view right now. So we're going to take a look at the 150 as it compares to the FB80 as well as the 5500 in low light.
So this, I did forget to show this
And
one.
this is not low light right now, so.
No. Yeah, I guess this is still 50-foot candles, but we did forget to show this one as relative to the other cameras. So you can see that it looks very similar to the camcorder. And we could spend a little bit more time matching these. However, you can see that it looks relatively close to the camcorder as far as image quality goes.
Again, it should be mentioned everything has been out of the box tonight. So
Yeah. So this is what you can expect, I would say, out of a $10,000 PTZ compared to broadcast cameras. So this is one of the better looking PTZs that you can get. A good picture relative to broadcast cameras. So,
is there any way we can take the pedestal on the FE80 and the 150 up a smidge? The blacks are a little bit too black if my monitor.
A little bit too crushed.
Yeah, they're a little bit too crushed right now. There's not a ton of detail on your shirt, Brady. I don't know if we can do that.
I can sure look into it, Nick.
That's it's underneath of your joystick for your iris.
So yeah,
it's those guys. So grab it underneath. This is a good here. There, we're going to switch to Brady. There you go, Brady. That's it.
Hey.
So you're going to take those up, and we're just going to uncrush those just a smidge so we match them up closer.
So
if you
it's
can
underneath
match
the iris?
It's those guys right there. Yeah.
Oh.
Those
I
rings.
thought you were talking to the Panasonic. I am sorry. Yes.
So
there you go.
Now we're a little bit less crushed on all of those. Now they're all a bit the same. And maybe take the 5500 down, the iris a touch in the 5500. And I don't know what controls we have on the Panasonic right now.
We have everything on the Panasonic.
Yeah.
Can we iris down a smidge on the 150 as well?
Yeah.
And iris down a smidge to Nate on the 352, please. AJ's head's a little shiny. Did you not? I
didn't put any makeup.
We didn't powder you up tonight?
No, I didn't put any makeup on today. I'm sorry.
Sweet. All right, so now everything's looking relatively iris the same, and the blacks look. There's good detail. I see wrinkles in your shirt, which is what I want to see. So now we can let's bring the light down and see each camera how each camera responds. Currently
That's on you, Nate.
Currently we're at. Actually, real quick before we do that, we're -3 gain. We're 0 gain on the FB80, -3 gain on the 5500 with a very expensive lens on it. And on the Panasonic, what's our gain at?
You are at 0 on the Panasonic.
0 gain. Iris, it probably doesn't say.
It does not say.
And then the 350.
Iris is about halfway right now.
Okay.
6.9.
So this is 5%.
That's 5%. So the good news is all of these cameras lowered. Hold on 1 second before we do that. The good news is they were all very linear in how they lowered. They all maintained rough. They all maintained rough light. Again, the blacks are a little bit less crushed on the 350 and the 150s, but that's what we would expect out of that. And then let's go ahead and try now to compensate for what we've done here, Brady. Try to compensate for what we've done.
What I'm doing.
So he is, we're having to add some gain to that camera there. Again, the 5500, we didn't add any gain. In fact, I'm assuming we're still at negative 3.
So, and Iris is not all the way open. We can pull up the gain if we want, and then smidge the Iris down just a tad. Yeah.
And then our 350, Nate, where are we at with the 350 with the Iris on it? 0 dB and the full Iris is full open, and then the 150, I'm assuming, where 0 dB and the Iris is full open as well.
That is true. So we can increase the gain a touch. On the 150, there's 3 dB, but I'm starting to see some noise doing that.
The 150 has really really good. It's able to add gain without getting into a bit of noise. So again,
about 3 dB.
Yep.
we're seeing 5-foot candles here. That's what you're looking at on the screen. On the 5500, we have a $90,000 lens. And then the FB80 is a less expensive $22,000 lens. The 150 is obviously, and the 350, they're both integrated lenses. So, and that's kind of the low light. So 550, Nate, if you'll flip the 350 around to show the front of the 550, the 5500, Nate, if we can flip your camera around, I want to see the front of the lens of the 5500. Again, folks, if you have any questions as to why more light is coming into that camera, it doesn't take a lot to show that next to the other lenses. There's a reason why there's quite a bit more light coming into the 5500 than there is the FB80. So yeah. Cool. There's our low light test with our PTZ camera, and that Panasonic 150 is a $10,000 PTZ option.
And if you didn't see last week, the 130 actually has a pretty similar image quality.
Yes.
The downside of the 130 is going to be you're not going to have that 4K crop and a few other nice features. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, as usual, it's that time of the show. Let's go around with our closing thoughts, our hot takes. And as usual, we'll start with Brady. Brady, what do you have for us in your hot take, your closing thoughts?
Yeah, my closing thoughts. I still think the Blackmagic should be an option for people if they need that SMPTE fiber and that kind of whole studio kit, if you will. As far as image quality, it's not my favorite. Just being straight honest there. And I think if you can't go to maybe the next price level, look at some nice camcorders, bring some into your space, demo them out, because I know a lot of people are looking at cameras right now, and this is a longer than 1 year investment for most people.
It should be noted tonight too, I just want to mention this because I'm watching chat, all of the lights in this room tonight were sitting at 5600, or I'm sorry, 6000 Kelvin. So that's an ideal place to be for these cameras. So we gave them all the benefit of the doubt, and they're all sitting at 6K. So someone asked, does the Blackmagic URSA have the Nashville Instagram filter on it? If you're unfamiliar with the Nashville filter, it kind of makes everything blue. And when we did the low light test, it certainly, that camera got weird and blue. So
I will say that is something else that we've noticed is for some reason it doesn't feel as linear on the light. Not like the other cameras. It doesn't feel as linear on the light throughput, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And then I will say that it's been far more susceptible to color temperature shifts as well. Yeah. That seems far more noticeable as opposed to more, I guess, less susceptible to color temperature shifting sensors. So maybe we should do that in one of the upcoming streams. Like I said, we've talked about doing just balancing cameras, and then also doing looking at color temperature shifting and things like that. So
if we have an option to do a next week stream, if we do it, well, it won't be next week. If we have an option to do a stream with maybe not even a stream, we've been looking at doing videos on demand of just producing videos. We could produce a video with the URSA broadcast for a future segment and try to get it looking as good as possible by putting the 55 by the Digi Super 55 on it.
Yeah.
And really give it the benefit of the doubt, build LUTs for it, have work with the person I'm thinking of. I don't want to shout them out without their permission, who is great with building LUTs. Have them build some LUTs for that camera with the Super 55 on it, and see where we can get that camera to look. to see what we can get it to look like. But
nothing like putting a 10-cylinder in a Honda Civic.
Yep, that's right. AJ, your closing thoughts?
I don't think I have any.
Really?
That's boring.
Yeah.
You got to come up with something.
Yeah, that's kind of against the rules that I've given
last week. Let's see.
The hottest of takes.
What?
And I said, give us the hottest of takes and don't take mine.
I don't know. I think that I don't have any good ones tonight. I'm lost.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's fine. Well, if you have something, you can go after me. Here's what I will say. I have seen a lot of talk about the Blackmagic broadcast camera. And again, I think it has its place in situations, specifically in education, to teach a true broadcast workflow with a SMPTE fiber cable, a fiber back, a real viewfinder, comm that goes back and forth. But I will say this. It is very difficult image-wise to give the camera the benefit of the doubt when we put it up against camcorders, and the camcorders significantly outperform the camera. In fact, the camera that I am using tonight, which is the Pocket Cinema 6K, while it's not even a camera in the same category and doesn't do any of the same things, so they can't really be side-by-side compared. But if we look at them from a camera to a camera, the 6K looks significantly better than the broadcast camera does, in my opinion, out of the box at least. So all of this to be said, obviously we expect and we know a broadcast camera like the FB-80 from Sony or Hitachi camera, we expect them to look really good out of the box. There's going to be minor differences you're going to notice between the two, but for the most part, quality is scaled by price in this industry, and for those two cameras, we expect them, being relatively similar price cameras, to perform similarly, and it's just a choice of manufacturers beyond that. Sony, Hitachi, Ikegami, all of these camera manufacturers produce fantastic cameras.
Panasonic,
yeah, they all produced unbelievably good cameras, and that's why they're used interchangeably oftentimes with each other in broadcast. I can't, though, sit here and tell you that I think if you're going for pure image quality, that the Blackmagic URSA broadcast camera honestly cuts it for most presentations. I might regret saying that. We own this camera. At some point in time, I think we were planning on getting rid of it and selling it. But it's unfortunately, it's like selling a vehicle that I've posted on my Instagram page that I've lit it on fire 7 times and I race it on the weekends. It might be hard to sell after doing these videos. But again, I just and we don't talk about what we do for our day job here much, but we work with Blackmagic, and we sell a lot of their products. But again, I can't say that right now out of the box the URSA broadcast camera cuts it. We're going to do some more work on it, though, as AJ mentioned. But right now, that's where I'm at with the camera. So I don't know if you guys agree with that. I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for saying that.
Whatever.
Yeah,
I think I said that. I think I pretty much said the same thing last week. If you're after that entire system, it definitely has its place. If you're after pure image quality and you don't need that long focal length, because that was another conversation that came up not too long ago, was there was a particular situation where they needed that budget range of camera, and they also needed that long focal length, and that's a thing. If you need that long focal length and you need that budget range of camera and you have great lighting, then by all means it can be made to look good. But it can be made to look reasonable. But if you don't need the focal length, I do think you're going to see better performance out of a camcorder. So that's all there is to it.
Yeah, I think in production environments too, which is what this entire podcast is about.
Yeah,
it's
live production.
Live production. You have no idea a lot of the time what type of lighting you're going to jump into, especially if you're traveling. If you're in your own place, that's different. If you have the lighting, great. But you just don't know all the aspects of the lighting.
I mean, that's why a shading operator exists.
Yeah.
This isn't cinema,
Yeah.
So you need someone constantly manning, constantly manning that shading control panel. So it's, that's why that whole position exists, because you are dealing with far greater dynamic range in a live environment than you typically are in a cinema environment. You're dealing with lower low light and higher highlights that need to be dealt with on the fly, and it's not something that it's not something you're going to go back and record everything in RAW and then fix in post. So,
and we all know one place where people start to cut budgeting first is lighting.
Yeah.
And for any camera, and this should go without saying, for any camera, while the 5500 was able to look great tonight in low light, it doesn't mean that there's a lot of depth created by the lighting. So depth and again, the proper lighting techniques that come alongside of that. So again, with any camera, lighting is critical. So
yeah.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. And we'll do this again. We'll do this again soon. So yeah. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to episode 8 of the Pro Production Podcast P3. It's been great being with you. Make sure you check out the video on demands for the last 2 parts of the Ultimate Camera Stream, and any stream or podcast that you might have missed, the one of 8. Again, we don't have an active stream planned right now for the future. There will be streams within, I would say, the next 2 or 3 weeks, but one isn't planned for right now. And to stay tuned and to be at our next stream, make sure you like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Pro Production Podcast. That's where you're going to catch all of the updates for upcoming streams and podcasts. So check that out there. And again, subscribe to us on youtube.com/Pro Production Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Real quick, I want to thank a few people too. AJ and Brady for hosting with us. Jenny doing producing. We didn't take phone calls tonight, but Jenny producing. Roger Bishop directing the show. Brian wasn't with us tonight, but thank you, Brian, as always. Nate for running camera. And again, want to thank folks that provided some cameras for us to be able to do these streams. In the past couple of weeks, Panasonic has provided cameras to us. Fujinon's provided lenses. Canon has provided lenses. We have Hitachi provided cameras. Sony's provided cameras. Ross, Miller tripods. I don't think I'm missing many other people. Obviously, Blackmagic. We've bought their cameras, but thank you for making those cameras too. So thank you to all of those people for being able to send us equipment. And if I've missed anyone, I do apologize. So again, stay tuned to the Facebook page. Hey, everybody, be safe out there, be well, and we will see you for the next episode of the Pro Production Podcast. Thanks, guys.